Hello, hello. This is Meg Slay, and I'm here with Trev Lewis, and this is Solidarity Side Chats, episode number 3. So, Trev, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing so fabulous, Meg. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm having a great time. Yeah.
It does not sound
hanging out
convincing.
With my bestie.
Did not sound convincing, but we'll believe
I know,
you.
Right?
We'll believe you.
Life is great.
The planet's
it's not
amazing.
like the Earth is on fire. Yeah, exactly. I love how we both went to that. Yeah, like
Because
the planet.
you have to go to that. How can you not
Right.
go to that? How can we ignore to the best of our ability?
Oh, I know.
But anyway, that's what when we finally launch the real show and not just do the side chats, the background should be just like a city on fire, and then it's just like
Right. Oh my God.
motion
Right.
graphics.
Yeah, I know. Oh man.
Anyway, we're not here to focus on the doom and the gloom. You've got plenty of channels for that. Sometimes we will, but
Yeah.
that's not the main focus
We're
for
gonna
us.
do happy stuff today.
Well, sort of a
I
mixture,
know.
a mixed bag. We do have several things to talk about today. We're really pushing ourselves with 3 main topics this time. It's like each side chat, I feel like we're getting additional topics, but a lot is happening this
Bonus
week.
content.
Bonus, there you go, bonus. Lizzo, toxic workplace tyrant or victim of salacious smear campaign. We'll go over the details and discuss. Barbenheimer. Meg has seen Barbie. I've seen Oppenheimer twice. We're going to offer a leftist perspective on both without spoilers because, again, we've both seen one of the films, but the other has not seen. And so it'll be good for those of you who are still on the fence of whether you want to go see them at all or if you just simply haven't made the time for it. Spoiler-free discussion of Barbenheimer, as it's called. And then finally, Cardi B throws a microphone at an audience member because she was doused with some sort of liquid. And just a general discussion, a trend people have been noticing on decaying social etiquette. People don't know how to act anymore, whether it's movie theaters or concerts. What the hell is going on? These are the 3 main topics, the first of which is, of course, Lizzo has been accused of being a toxic boss and subjecting employees to deeply inappropriate behavior in workplace settings. Now, there's a lot of layers to this, so I want to discuss them each sort of individually. One of the things I don't know if most people have seen is at least 2 of the accusers and their lawyer recently appeared on TMZ. And I think, again, we're taking this one piece at a time and we're sort of judging them individually because I do think that this TMZ appearance, while it does not speak to every accusation or person involved over the years that has come out and said Lizzo was bad to work for, it is one piece of this puzzle, and I do think it gives a bit of a different energy than a lot of what people are reading in the papers, digitally, whatever. And so let's just play that clip for folks so that the audience, if you haven't seen it yet, you can see this for yourselves, and then Meg and I will give you our thoughts.
Were these demands or suggestions made by Lizzo, as you say, were they direct, where they said, I really want you to do it, or was it more, I'm afraid if I don't, I might get fired?
Yeah, I think for both of us, there was like this always looming feeling of thinking that if you didn't do something or you didn't adhere to certain suggestions or demands that your job could be in jeopardy. Have fun with her and, go along with like what she was doing and, be down for anything that they were favored. They were hired for more shows. They were invited on, like private jets and to do cool things and, could hang out with her and in like tropical settings like Hawaii and stuff like that. Some of our coworkers, it's just like there was no line between professionalism and personal. And so we had in our minds that if we weren't, down for anything, that we would then be ostracized later. It was this unspoken thing in the camp that if you weren't super fun, like if you like skipped out on all of the like outings and all that stuff, that you wouldn't be seen in good favor from Lizzo, and that you would then not be considered like one of the people that is like cool and down for anything, and then therefore not be booked for as many jobs.
Now, Meg, I don't know about you, but when I watch this, like, if this is the only thing I knew, which it's not, and I suspect, most people watching this, so let's be very clear, this is not the only piece of this.
Yes,
but if this was the only piece of anything, I think a lot of people will agree with me, it is not the most convincing thing in the world. First of all, can we just acknowledge, like, TMZ? Why? If you're going to do something like this, of all places, it's like one step
TMZ?
Below E! News. Like,
right? It's like, go on Oprah or something.
Right. She still is around. She does these one-off interviews. So that's my first question. Why are we doing a TMZ interview? What kind of a lawyer, even like setting aside setting aside our personal judgment of it for a second, just in terms of strategy, just in terms of, like, let's say everything that they're saying is true. In terms of, like, smart legal strategy, is this appearance on TMZ? Because Lizzo recently hired one of the most powerful lawyers in Hollywood to go up against, like she's like, this lawyer's represented everyone from terrifying people to people who genuinely weren't guilty, but like big names, one of the biggest power players in Hollywood law, right? And then these folks are showing up with this guy on TMZ with us. I mean,
it's
just
like, is TMZ trying to rebrand?
Right.
Maybe.
maybe good for TMZ.
You never know. Yeah.
What was your opinion, Meg, watching that? Did you get a different take, or do you agree with me? Like, this is maybe not the best visual optics they could have done.
I just feel that, I don't know. Well, I think actually, okay. First of all, this. I actually worked in legal. And I feel like probably not always a good idea to put people on public television and, like, create more evidence, like, especially it just feels like that they weren't very prepped to go and give, like, interviews and discuss everything that was going on. So that's something that I would have probably not advised. Just
you wouldn't throw them on TMZ?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have done that. Just because I don't think they were ready for, like, any of the questions that they were going to be getting from that clip.
And that is the thing about this clip. Like, again, regardless of other details, and we're going to get into some of the other details that are not featured in that clip from those two people, but regardless of the other details, just looking at this, again, just this piece by itself, there's not a lot there. There's not a lot of, Harvey, what's his, who the TMZ guy's name is?
Oh, no.
No,
Okay,
but that's what I'm thinking. But it's not Harvey Weinstein. No.
Yeah.
The guy from Harvey Levin, I forget the guy's name. It's a guy from TMZ. He asked them specifically, did Lizzo explicitly tell you to do these things? And it was a lot of, well, there was a vibe. There was a unspoken this or that. And then in terms of the specifics, unless I misheard some other parts, it was just about, like, if you weren't fun, you didn't get to go on a private jet to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I think most people are going to look at that and go, well, is that really such a traumatic thing that Lizzo didn't think you were fun to be around, so she didn't take you on a private jet to Hawaii? Like, again, this is not saying there aren't more severe accusations that have been made. But in this clip, speaking purely of optics, strategy, and this being, to my knowledge, the first time two accusers of Lizzo have gone on television since these accusations, this is not the clip.
No.
This is not the clip you want out there. And if this is what they've got, then that's not going to be a winning situation for them. Now, I do want to pull up, though, however, that there are some very explicit accusations involving Lizzo taking these employees to a club after they're done working for the day. And at the club, Lizzo allegedly, and this is as written in, and quoted in NBC News, began inviting cast members to take turns touching nude performers, catching dildos launched from the performers' vaginas. This is all exactly as it's written. and eating bananas protruding from the performers' vaginas. Lizzo then turned her attention.
So crazy. What is going on in Amsterdam?
What is going on? First of all, that's no way to get your potassium, people.
Right.
That is not a
way.
medically advised way to get your daily potassium needs. I'm just going to say that from a medical.
God. I was like, I'm kind of intrigued. Like, I'm kind of intrigued. Like, you have to admit.
You
to
can't
some
ignore
degree.
that.
Well, I mean, I'm just like, it kind of sounds like a once in a lifetime experience, but also I know that that's not everyone's vibe, right? Like, that's
Right.
bananas. So I totally understand that. That's not even, I wasn't even trying to like lead into that. That's hilarious.
We need a little rim shot
Right.
sound effect.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I was just like, I understand why that girl would be like kind of hanging back, you know, and being a wallflower, because that's a lot to take in. Like,
No,
that
if
is
that-
wild.
If that happened, I mean, this is way different than the TMZ clip, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big distinction between if we weren't deemed fun, she wouldn't take us to Hawaii in a private jet. That's a very big distinction to
Yes.
she coerced us into engaging in
Yes, correct.
sexual acts against our will. That's a huge, gigantic violation.
Oh,
of
1,000%. Well, and see, that's the other hang up that I personally had. Because the way that some of these articles phrased it was like, oh, Lizzo forced the dancers to go and perform these like sexual acts on the sex workers with the bananas, things like that. And I was just like, you know, for me personally, nobody could make me or force me to go and perform a sexual act on another person. You know, I would just say no. Like, I don't care what the situation or job is. Like, you know, at some point, it's like if it was such for me, if I was in such a toxic workplace and I was stepping on like trying to avoid eggshells and it got to that point, I'd be like, you know what? There's other jobs. Or I can, you know, whether it's in my industry or not.
But you know, the argument is like,
yeah.
I think people are going to say it's easier said than done, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
No, 1,000%.
when you're in this situation, first of all, if you want a career as a dancer, you know, let's say that's your life's passion, which for many of these people it is.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
Lizzo has power. You know, I mean, she's one of the most famous, popular performers in the world. And if Lizzo says, you know, justifiably or otherwise, if Lizzo says you're unpleasant and difficult or whatever, and word gets out that you used to work for Lizzo, but you sucked, what kind of job opportunities are you going to have? And so, you know, whether it's right or wrong of people to assume this, the simple fact is I don't think you blame people for being afraid that if I mess this up, right?
Yes.
Like,
Now, I do want to clarify that because it's like this is something that for me, you know, I don't think that they should have ever been put in those positions in the first place. That is where Lizzo was absolutely wrong.
Of course.
You know, I think that, you know, if I was in that position, you know, you and me are friends outside of this. And so if I, for whatever reason, we did a Vegas trip and I was like, we're going to go to the strip clubs, like I would tell you and I would be okay if you said no. And I wouldn't want you to feel forced to go and
Meg,
do it.
I am not eating that banana for multiple reasons. I am a gay man, and that banana, I don't even like bananas, let alone vaginas. So this is like the worst of both worlds.
Combination ever. You would be like, no.
Stupid.
No,
anyway, but yeah,
thank you.
It's like,
but yeah, like, so it's just like, you know, for what Lizzo did was wrong because from my understanding is that she did not even tell the dancers, hey, I want to go here. It's an open invitation. Whoever wants to go and show up and have some fun can come and join me. But it sounds like she just basically said, hey, come meet me at this address, did not tell anyone what was going on, and they show up and it's outside of a sex club.
Right. Correct? And so this is where, you know, I do think it's not popular on the internet to take a nuanced approach, but here's the reality. we have people accusing things. If this was coercion, if this was a situation where people were pressured into doing this against their will, then it is unequivocally wrong. If it is more in the vein of this TMZ interview, where it's dancers who clearly felt like other people were getting better treatment and they wanted the private jet and the Hawaii trip, and they just didn't, the career didn't go where they wanted it to, and so now they're trying to get something out of it after the fact, out of bitterness or jealousy or whatever, which is what the TMZ thing, I think, is going to come across to people. Those are different things. And Lizzo issued an apology, which was very generic and PR written and whatever, and the simple fact is there's no kind of decision that has been made. There's no kind of legal, proclamation, none of this. So I do fear, I know the accusations are quite serious, but I do fear that for multiple reasons, people have really rushed to judgment on this. And that's a problem with the internet in general. And I think we can say that even as leftists. I don't think you have to be a right-winger talking about stupid cancel culture to acknowledge that the internet has a tendency to want to tear people down regardless of evidence, regardless of anything. It's just the way the algorithms are wired for engagement and outrage and these sorts of things. So there is a real concern of rushing to judgment towards a performer who represents some pretty important things in terms of diversity, in terms of representation, in terms of achievement, in terms of body positivity, in terms of Black American artists. Like there's a lot of reasons why people would want to attack Lizzo wrongfully.
Yes.
There's a lot of her identity on multiple categories, a right-wing effort to smear her, and based on the feedback I was seeing after posting just simple updates on the story, there's a lot of right-wing reactionary folks that are going to tear Lizzo down, no matter if there's any foundation to these accusations or not. And I think if we're going to be better than those people, if we're going to be better than the right-wingers that wish to smear and attack and just tarnish the reputation of an artist because she represents inclusivity, because she represents body positivity, because she represents all these things, if we're going to be better than those people, we got to maybe
be nuanced.
Put the brakes a little bit, be nuanced, and go, okay, these are serious accusations and they need to be taken seriously until we actually have looked at every angle of this and heard from everybody and just really weighed the evidence. Maybe we don't rush to completely destroy an artist that means a lot of things to a lot of people. Now, again, plenty of people that have worked for Lizzo, a lot of these accusers themselves are also Black Americans. They're women. They represent body positivity. So, it's not like it's a bunch of right-wingers accusing her, to be clear, necessarily. But I just think, you got to be careful with this. You got to be careful with stories like this because that TMZ clip looks a bit different than some of the stuff being written. The vibes are off, in my opinion. And if I'm wrong and it turns out every horrible thing that's been written about Lizzo is, I'll own up to that and be like, but I feel confident right now we just don't know for sure what happened. And I would hate for us to immediately rush to judgment on this, and then it comes out it's not true, and we've destroyed the reputation of an artist that meant a lot to a lot of people wrongfully. So that's just,
No, I agree. I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. I think that I am always for nuanced conversations because, it's like the yin and the yang. There's, a little bit of good, a little bit of bad in everyone, there's shades of gray, and we need to really look at things like that rather than just black and white a lot of the times, because that's not real life. The other thing that I just want to add on to that is that, I think it's a very delicate situation, like you were stressing. And for myself, though, like you're saying, the vibes are kind of off because it just feels like, the key word that a lot of the articles are using is forced.
Right.
And when they were saying what they did, and of course that comes down to editing and, like I said, it seems like they weren't really coached to do like a PR, interview. It just kind of seems like something's lacking. Like and so like I guess for myself, because I've been put in situations where in work where the power dynamics are off, and you have to make a decision, and so I understand for myself that I'm very outspoken, and so I would be the person that would say no and just face whatever repercussions would happen right afterwards. So I guess that's my personal take on it, is like why I kind of like, I don't really understand why people wouldn't say that. And so for me, I try to understand why other people don't, right? And I think that what does happen for a lot of women is that a lot of women want to adapt to situations and kind of enter into a survival mode. So then they kind of go along with it, and I know that this is like not a dynamic where it's like, a male boss and a female employee. But I think that with this situation, it's just like still there's a power dynamic. And so those women are trying to adapt to the situation by not rocking the boat. And I think that that's probably something, unfortunately, that might have like weakened their defense in a way, because if they had definitely said, no, I don't want to be here, and set down the law and walked and had like things happen to their career after that, I think that they would have like a better case. Right.
Just from like a actual legal perspective on that. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
And I think that, I'll wait until all the evidence comes out, but I feel for, everyone involved, including the fans, because I know that, Lizzo meant a lot to those fans, and I don't know how they're feeling right now, but I'm sure it sucks,
Exactly. So that's what it is. That's where we're at. Give us your thoughts. If there's an angle we have failed to consider here, if you agree with us, even if you strongly disagree with us, I think it's a story we're going to be talking about for a while until we get more information. So we're always curious to hear your thoughts. No judgment. If you disagree with me, I'll just block you, but that's fine. No, of course not. So transitioning to a more lighthearted subject matter, Barbenheimer, the movie situation of the summer, the first time in a long time, in my opinion, that felt like people are excited to go to the movies. Barbie, the film, and Oppenheimer, totally different films.
Oh, 1,000%.
Becoming an internet. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I got so excited. I'm like knocking my mic and everything. I remember when we've known about Barbie forever. It seems like, their marketing campaign was amazing.
Yes.
I remember I was talking to my mom about how Barbenheimer was a thing, and she was like, I haven't even heard of this second movie. Like, what is this?
Right.
And I was like, I haven't actually seen any kind of like promotion for the, Oppenheimer. And so it seems like they're I'm just like, it kind of seems like they're just getting a lot of free marketing because they came out on the same day. And I was like, you know what? Good for whatever, production is like doing that, because they don't have to do any of the work right now.
Yes. Whether it truly was a grassroots thing or maybe it was some really meticulous behind the scenes thing. Either way, it was brilliant and it worked.
1,000%.
And both films benefited and had awareness raised. They were stronger being joined in this internet meme than they would have been on their own. And so I've loved every second of it. I know some people got tired of seeing it after a while, but it's been so long. When was the last time people got this excited about the movies? And it wasn't some Marvel, Star Wars, which I like some of those movies, not a lot of them. I like some of those movies, but it's like, come on now, let people have their fun. This is exciting. And so Meg has seen Barbie. I'm actually going to see it after we're done recording this session. So I have yet to see Barbie. I've seen Oppenheimer twice. Meg has not seen Oppenheimer. So what we're going to do, Meg is going to give her thoughts on Barbie, the Barb part of Barbenheimer, and then I'll be the Enheimer half, the Oppenheimer half, and I'll give you my thoughts on that film. And then eventually both of us will see the other one, and then maybe we can circle back or something. But just for the folks out there who have yet to see these films, neither of us have seen both, and so we're cognizant of that for each other and for you. We're going to give you our thoughts on these films without spoiling anything. and that's the goal at least. And we promise if we accidentally spoil anything, I'll edit it out so that you for sure don't. But I don't think we will. So Meg, I think it makes sense. It's Barbenheimer. It makes sense to start with the Barbie half. You saw it. What did you think?
Yeah. So honestly, I loved it. You know, I don't know if DVDs are like still a thing. I think they are. I would probably buy the DVD. I'd watch it again. I think it was fantastic. I loved it. You know, it kind of gave me the same vibe as like Legally Blonde.
Okay.
You know, just like that very like girl empowerment, you know, a girl's girl kind of lead character. And so I thought it was great. You know, I did not see it on opening day. I probably saw it like, you know, a couple days afterwards. And what I thought was so interesting is just like the right wingers that were reacting to it and how upset they were getting. Right. And it's just because of the gender roles. They were reversed. Women were, you know, are more empowered in this film. Right. And men are kind of treated like boy toys.
Right, which is I think everybody kind of gets the Kens or the Kens, and then the Barbies are
secondary.
Which is kind of how the dolls were kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Like the original action figure doll things were like Barbie had all these jobs and Ken was just Ken, right? Like that's kind of, and so it plays on that.
He was the side piece. He was the handbag, the fancy, like, you know, arm candy. Yeah. And what I thought was so interesting is because I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but with Ryan Gosling, when he got the role offered to him, he was deciding, and then he walked out and saw a Ken doll laying in the grass in the backyard, you know. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, did you know that?
I didn't know that.
No, okay, yeah, because I guess like his daughter or something had been playing with Ken and just forgot about the toy in the backyard. Wow, and that's a sign. He was like, just like, you know, the toy's like just like lying face down in the dirt next to like a lemon or something. And they're like, so he takes a picture and then sends it to Greta and basically says, I'm going to be your Ken. Like, this is a sign from the universe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's how he got into it. I thought.
So let me ask you, was it funny? Like just purely from a...
Yeah, it was great. It was funny because I think that, you know, yes, it's consumerism. They're talking about Barbie and this and that, but I think that it did try in some ways to go and address a lot of those things because, you know, she's referred to as the stereotypical Barbie in the movie. Right. You know, like that's the Barbie ideal, you know, and that's a lot of things that, you know, like body image, that's like something that's addressed, you know, like, and how to like empower yourself and like, you know, I think that it was wonderful but it was done in a way that's just hilarious, you know, and a lot of the critiques that are coming in about it are kind of just like, oh yeah, like it's a pink acid trip and yada, yada, yada. And like Greta's lost the plot. I'm like, these are just haters. These people are full on haters. I will say that when I was watching it, I was thinking about like, what if the power dynamics were reversed? You know, what if this was Ken playing Barbie and vice versa? You know, and like what it, you know, like that kind of scenario. And so I could understand why it could make some people uncomfortable, but like not enough to go and like buy Barbies and burn them and throw them in a trash can like Ben Shapiro.
Well,
I think
I was going to say, yeah,
like
those folks will do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's just crazy. Like really, you're that triggered by a movie like that? Like really, come on now. So I was going to say though, just wanted to point this out because I think that this is like a TV show that should get more views, is that if, you know, right-wingers really want to get mad about something that's like feminine empowerment, is to watch this TV show called The Power. And that would definitely upset way more men because it's like outright, like it's hardcore. So if you don't have anything to watch, go and start watching The Power. But then
my curiosity with Barbie is, does any of it feel like it's trying too hard or it's too forced with the messaging? Is it like overly over the top with the political point? Or do you feel like it was a nice balance of there's clearly an underlying message here, but they made sure that the whole thing was still fun and it works pretty seamlessly? What did you feel?
So for me, you know, I think that like I'm somebody that's I mean, I didn't know exactly what the movie was going to be. I kind of got a feeling that like what it might be, given how many right wingers were reacting as
Right.
passionately as they were.
Right.
But I think that too, just like with what Greta did, it's like it was supposed to be like a little bit over the top, right? And so if something's over the top, that's what you're gonna get, with the acting, with the storyline, with X, Y, and Z aspects of this movie and this film. And so like, yeah, it was like very obvious. It was funny, it was hilarious. I loved it. It kind of reminded me actually when it what was it with She-Hulk? A lot of
Right.
people didn't like She-Hulk. And
Right.
like there's some criticisms and like, and some things that happen within those plots that are kind of like have mirror each other in a way. I don't want to say anything more because spoilers and whatever.
Of
But
course. Of course.
it's just like the same people that were criticizing She-Hulk for, the way that was filmed are probably the same people that are also criticizing how Barbie was filmed.
Gotcha.
And so that's just the way that I think that it's just like, yeah, it had like a message and people are saying it's political, but I don't think it's political in the sense. I think it's a societal issue that we've made political.
Right.
Because this is something that's not politics. It's something that's about society. But yeah,
I think that's fair.
that's
Well,
just
I'm
my take on it.
excited.
Yeah,
I'll see it for myself
Yeah, tell
here
me
in,
what
in,
you think about it
in a couple hours. Yeah.
afterwards and everything. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
And then, so okay, I actually have a question for you, and then it can lead into all of your stuff. But
Sure.
why did you end up seeing Oppenheimer twice?
Because of what I'm about to get into, which
Okay.
is Oppenheimer was simply one of the most magnificent things I have ever seen.
Oh, really?
And I am not the kind of person that we haven't done, like, I don't think we've done a single other film review on this channel yet, but I am not the person to give high praise like that. I really try to measure, and I'm always worried that there's recency bias. I saw it at the City Walk, Universal Studios AMC IMAX, and so it's like this gigantic 70 millimeter IMAX. So it's this gigantic, stunning, the visuals, and you go, okay, was I just like sort of in a trance? Was it just the wow factor of the first viewing? And then I go and watch it later, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't as great as I remember it. So I saw it twice in the same week. Second time at the Chinese Theater over in Hollywood, and even at the second viewing, I was like, once it was over, this is a goddamn amazing movie. One of the
Really?
best films I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Period. Point blank. Like you got to see it for yourselves if you haven't. I think on both levels, on purely from a cinema level, the acting, the cinematography, the pacing, editing, directing, all of it, every single layer of it, I think is excellent. Then you have the actual underlying message, the content of the film itself, and I just think the moral of this film, the message of it, which it does not, it's not like it beats you over the head with it. So I do think like Ben Shapiro, they loved it, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
if you see this movie and you're a leftist, you'll be like, Ben Shapiro does not understand movies. He just does not. But that's not a new thing. Right wingers watch Star Wars and fail to realize that they're defending the Empire.
Yeah.
They just think it's laser swords and
There's
aliens.
not a lot of
and
thoughts going on. Yeah.
not a whole lot going on upstairs.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Ben Shapiro is so frustrated with the Ken depiction.
Right.
Although he wishes he had the body of Ryan
Gosling. Yeah.
Anyway, so it really, I think, is a film that not only is it brilliant in its own right, but the timing. I think Christopher Nolan was very intentional with making this movie right now, this moment, as I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that it is very clear the tensions right now between the world powers resemble a Cold War. and the first time we're in a real Cold War like this since the original. And so going back in time and looking at the previous Cold War and World War II and what led to a human rights catastrophe, the likes of which has not been seen before or since, of dropping nuclear weapons on innocent people, just incinerating them. And I also appreciate this. And none of this is spoilers. Again, this is public history. So it's not,
right.
but
Yeah,
my film's a bit different because Oppenheimer it's real events. So
you will, hopefully everyone learned about it in high school. That was
you should know. So nothing I'm saying is spoiler, for God's sakes. It's like saying 9/11, like talking about 9/11 is a
Right,
spoiler alert.
yeah.
There's gonna movie coming out anyway. I haven't seen the Michael Moore movie yet. Shush.
Right.
So I'm not spoiling anything by saying like it was a human rights catastrophe that was justified in various ways, and I think, especially if you're a leftist or left-leaning person, you will walk away thinking that this film did justice to the fact that this should never have happened, and that as much as it has been justified and rationalized and saying, well, it ended the war. Well, did it? Was that really what did it? Well, if we didn't do it, Nazi Germany would have developed them first, and that would have been, even worse. Well, would it have been even worse? Or what I think the film, and this is why Ben Shapiro is so dumb, I think the film does a very good job of showing people that America is more of the problem than we're willing to often admit.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there you go, Swifty, is a little reference for you.
Singing by me.
Is there a lot of crossover between Oppenheimer fans and Taylor Swift, which remains to be seen. But anyway, I think, again, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to get too specific, but if you're really paying attention to this film, you will see, in my opinion, after the bomb has been built and all this stuff, the way Christopher Nolan portrays, pay special attention to this, the way Christopher Nolan portrays just the American people, the American public, and their reaction to the bomb being dropped on Japan. Look at the way he very, I think, intentionally characterizes them. It is as if he's suggesting the American public and our culture and our just violent, deranged, sort of jingoist attitude towards the world is as dangerous as the bomb itself. And the bomb is the bomb, but the fact that it was in the hands of this country and the inherent nature of this country with regards to violence, patriotism, imperialism, these sorts of things, I just think the film portrayed it in a way, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter that are concerned, like, oh, Christopher Nolan's gonna, it's gonna be this liberal movie where he justifies the bomb being dropped, and it didn't give the Japanese perspective. Well, I think if you watch it, you'll understand why he did it the way he did it, because yes, it does focus on the American perspective, like entirely the American perspective on this.
Yeah.
But for good reason. It because it's portraying the deranged, psychotic incompetence and corruption that led to.
So it's
one of the
holding up a mirror, essentially.
Yes, I think so. And then again, aside from just the message of it, which I felt was pretty strong and clear, there's a lot of. It's going to sound weird juxtaposing it. There's a lot of fun things. And then, like, someone described, because Albert Einstein, of course, makes a couple of appearances in the film.
Yes.
Someone described the way he was portrayed in the movie as a fruity Yoda. And I just think if you see this for yourself, that is the most. Yes, that is the most perfect way. Like he is the fruity.
Yoda.
He's the fruity Yoda of the movie,
Oh,
and it's incredible. There's just some genuinely funny artistic choices Christopher Nolan made that I think makes it wildly entertaining. And again, there's really no reason a movie that's like a biopic about a quantum physics dude that should be this exciting, but it's a historical biopic that feels as exhilarating as an action movie. I really don't think it's like 3 hours. I really don't think you'll be bored. If you have just even like a modicum of an attention span. Now, I can't speak to everybody, but there's some people, we're going to get into that a little bit later. But
Yeah.
I think for the average person, if you're worried that some boring history movie, it's dazzling. There are so many visuals and the soundtrack and just the pacing of it. I think it's perfectly structured. I think if you're willing to sit for the 3 hours, even if you thought maybe this isn't your kind of movie, if you're willing to give it a chance and you make it all the way till the end, I would be really surprised if you walked away not going, wow, that was actually a pretty incredible few hours of my time, and I kind of get what's at stake right now.
Yes.
And my hope is it might cause some people to reconsider their attitudes towards other countries
a lot of
that
the
were
things that are going on.
Yeah, we're being told to hate a lot of other countries, and we're being encouraged to participate in the Cold War sentiment that has clearly resurfaced, and the McCarthyist attitudes that never really left. They won. The McCarthyists, the Red Scare, it never stopped. Like, they won, and we've lived in a country that is so violently anti-socialist ever since, to a huge fault, to its own detriment. And I really think this film does such a brilliant job at depicting just how self-destructive the anti-socialist sentiment in this country gets. Whether or not you're a socialist, I don't think you have to be a socialist or even a leftist to appreciate what the movie is telling people, which is, you can disagree with socialists and communists all you want, but at a certain point, you're siding with fascists over them.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're saying fascism is less of a threat. The film makes that very explicit in one scene that I thought was, like, towards the beginning. It's very well done. And what does that really say about you? If you're a liberal, or you think of yourself as a conservative or a liberal in this country, and if you're being honest with yourself, you see socialism as a greater threat than fascism, and you see stopping that, which at a certain point this country, in many instances, has and still is. Like, I just think, for a movie this big, from a director this big, I think leftists will find it way better, way more constructive than they expected. And I think the general public can appreciate the message of, hey, if we destroy the entire world, nobody wins.
Yeah.
Nobody wins. And
it's
so
either
maybe
that or climate change. Yay.
Right, exactly. And so, it's about nuclear weapons on some level, but we can think, I really think you can apply it to other things outside of simply nuclear weapons, like you just said. Like, if we destroy the planet, what's the point in any of this? And so, again, I don't want to give you any more than that, because we're not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But when I tell you, like, I don't feel this passionate about a lot of movies. I really don't. I mean, I love movies, and I like a lot of them. But in terms of how much I love this film, man, like, he knocked it out of the park. Christopher Nolan, I salute you. I hope you all go see it. And I don't know what else. Meg, do you have any questions for me based on that description, or did I?
No, I think it's
it?
wonderful. You know what you're kind of saying. It actually reminded me of this quote, and I don't know how to pronounce the author's name, so I'm not even gonna butcher it. But maybe you can get a graphic on screen and everything that says this. But the quote is saying, "The world is not divided between East and West. You're American, I'm Iranian. We don't know each other, but we talk and we understand each other perfectly. The difference between you and our government and your government is much bigger than the difference between you and me. The difference between me and my government is much bigger than the difference between me and you. Our government is very much the same, and our governments are very much the same." And so basically it's like, every citizen, no matter what country they belong to, is going to have a lot in common with one another.
Yes.
And the only reason
specifically the working class.
Yes. The only reason war happens is because of our governments.
Right.
And it really sucks that our governments are not run by people that know how to actually have discussions and work things out, because, without people, there's no borders.
Right.
If we were just like, hanging out, I mean, I understand. I don't know. I don't even know how to put this, but it's just like, we're all on this planet together. This is like our spaceship. We're all stuck here together.
Well, this is a big difference.
Yeah, like
This is a big difference between what I think a lot of people would agree, liberalism and leftism, which is leftism in particular is an internationalist.
Yeah.
Internationalists,
Yes.
world workers of the world unite.
Yeah.
So if you're sticking to domestic, if all you care about is what happens in this country, yes, every American should have health care. Yes, every American should be able to go to college. But if that's where you stop, which I think a lot of progressives do, you're missing the big picture, and you're not going to get any of those things, because if we don't have an international workers' effort towards challenging our governments for better standards of living and challenging corporations and the capitalist class, if we don't have that solidarity around the world, we're not going to actually build the movement we need. It's got to be this united effort. If you're only thinking small in terms of domestic, and that's a huge fallacy, by the way, the idea that there's domestic policy and foreign policy. You cannot separate these things. Foreign policy shapes the domestic policy shapes the foreign policy. Like, your cost of living is directly related to whatever conflicts and wars are going on, et cetera, et cetera. Even climate change, exactly.
Like, it affects all of us.
Yes, and so that's so good that you brought that up, Meg. Like, it is an internationalist perspective. If you are truly of the left, you need to look at this through an internationalist, anti-war, anti-racist. It needs to be an inclusive, anti-war workers
Care about people.
movement. Yes, that's what it is.
Wow.
And wow, what a novel
How
concept.
insane. Yeah, caring about people,
Yeah.
It's just like, for me, it's, be a humanist. Like, give a shit about people. Like, what
That's
is
really what
wrong
it
with
is.
you? I mean, like, I think that, like, to a degree, we're all, like, under the boot of, like, the government. And so we're all struggling, but it's just like, those struggles are actually our similarities.
Right,
And
it's
that's
our
what I
common ground.
think that people kind of forget, that it's like, like, there's thousands of more people that are actually experiencing, like, housing issues. There's thousands of people that are experiencing, like, or struggling with, like, the healthcare system. Like, there's thousands of people, millions of people that share the same struggles, and, like, this is the thing, is that all those struggles are connected to the same thing,
Right.
which is our governments,
Right.
and, like, also just, like, the corporations too, that, like, uphold this system. And so it's just like, if we actually have those one-on-one discussions and talk things out, we're going to realize, hey, like, you know what? We might not see eye to eye on everything, but we do have more in common than we do have differences. So that's my soapbox.
I agree. I completely agree. That's what it's all about. That's why it's solidarity media.
Yeah.
That's why it is. And that's what we do here. So, in addition to the struggle, and it is a noble but difficult struggle. Take some time to go see Barbie and Oppenheimer, because they're great movies, and there's room for both in your life. You can't, you got to take care of yourselves. It's easy to burn out. It's easy to get doom and gloom and cynical, and that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't accomplish anything. Take some time. Take some time to enjoy yourself. Go see Oppenheimer, and then after you're done seeing that's why I see it in the order
popcorn.
I did.
Yeah,
Get the big popcorn. Once you're done seeing the
yourself.
terrifying depiction in Oppenheimer, go enjoy Barbie.
Right.
And they really, even though it's Barbenheimer, I think the other
Do it in
order.
reverse.
I think that if you're going to do both, do it in reverse. But
you know
anyway.
what? I'll say this. Okay, so I want to see Oppenheimer, but the thing that kills me is that it's 3 hours long. And I really wish we could go and default back to the days where they would
intermission,
have,
right?
Yes.
Yes.
What happened to that?
No, that's
I
the big
would
difficulty.
love that.
But I'm telling you, for 3 hours, it does not.
captivated.
I don't think it feels like 3 hours. I really don't.
Yeah.
Some people, if you really have zero interest in, like, any of the subject matter, I still think there's moments that'll capture your attention, but maybe it's not for you. But I do think, even if you just have even some vague interest in, like, the world and nuclear and, like, and, like, apocalypse, and, like, I really think it's a historical biopic, but it feels more like an action movie. I really think
No, I
want to
see it. Like, I'm a nerd, and definitely you've sold me. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. I just, like, for me, I'm kind of spoiled with, like, watching things at home, because I get to pause and, like, I can, like, refill my water, get another snack, or go to the restroom.
And that's a perfect point, by the way, which segues into
right?
what we're going to talk about next.
And so, but for me, like I said, bring back intermission. they would
I agree.
definitely, more people like me would go. Like, we'd
I
be like,
totally-
okay, now I can
I
actually
love
take
drinking
my break. Yeah.
my 10-gallon drum of Diet Coke.
Like, if I'm going to get the large popcorn, I also want the large drink. And that's just like a
Yes.
recipe for disaster. Because what if I miss like a really important part of the movie?
Right. I totally agree. And with this movie, no second is
Yes.
spared. I'll tell you that. Like, you really don't want to get
That's
up.
my worry.
So,
That was my concern.
well, get the smaller soda maybe if it's a real
yeah,
risk.
right?
You know what I mean?
Just
Like, but
don't
anyway.
drink anything until it's the
Yeah.
last hour. But
Exactly.
then, so with that being said, now there's some etiquette stuff that you were talking about too, right?
Yes. So the big Cardi B story this week, and this is our final topic of the episode, but Cardi B threw her microphone at an audience member at one of her shows after an audience member doused her with whatever beverage they were holding in that moment. And I don't think it was intentional on her part, to be honest. I think it was just a gut reaction. But this has been a growing trend with people going to concerts, and it's always been a problem, but it really feels like people are
It's
forgetting.
increasing.
Yes, people are forgetting how to act. So first of all, full solidarity with Cardi B. I wish, my only wish is that
we're there for you, Cardi.
yes, my only wish is that she hit the person that actually threw the drink and not some random person,
Right
which
now,
is what
I
I think. It's hard to really calculate that in the moment. So that's my only concern there. But in addition to that, there's this larger trend happening this week. A tweet went viral of someone, the user was at Cat in Bars, that said, a lot of people are defending their in-theater phone use by saying they get bored during long movies. I get that, but here's the thing. Boredom is a part of life. Movie theaters are shared spaces. You aren't entitled to distract other people from the art because you're bored. And so here's how I think these two things relate. Whether it's a crazy concert goer that is making themselves the center of the experience and interfering with the performer, and they just like desperately want to be noticed and get attention at the detriment of the experience of everyone, including the artists themselves. Or if you're at a movie theater, like, this is not about you. When you are in a public, and it really feels like people are forgetting basic
comments.
social. It's the comments. It's the basic social etiquette.
Yeah.
This is not new stuff, but it does feel like in the age of, and I know people talk about this breathlessly, but in the age of social media where everybody's constantly the main character in their own eyes, the idea of being considerate about the people around you, of not treating artists like a friend that you could just throw something at or
Yeah.
whatever, like they don't know you like that, they don't want your drink
Yeah.
all over them, and then going to a movie theater and just sitting on your phone, like, if you do not want to see the movie, or if you just
Don't
decide it's
go.
boring, or leave,
Yeah.
don't go, or if you get there and you hate it, leave. Because
Yeah.
even if, I don't care, I had people, I posted about this and people argued with me and said, well, it's my money, and if I have the brightness down, even if your brightness is down, a phone in the movie theater can be seen. It is distracting. It's just how the human eye works. And there's no reason. Don't do it. You can watch
Yeah.
stuff at home. Like, Meg, you had the sense just a bit ago. You said, I'm spoiled by streaming stuff at home and I can
Yeah.
just do that. But you recognize the difference between,
Yeah, I
this
recognize
is not my
problems.
home.
Like, yeah,
This is not
exactly.
my
I can't go
home.
and pause the movie, and it's
Right.
the same thing. Like, if they're getting bored, one tweet that I saw is that somebody was saying, "Oh yeah, I was watching the Barbie movie, and a fight broke out because some parents decided to let their kid go and watch YouTube videos in the middle of the movie." Now, it didn't go into a lot of details, like whether or not there was like headphones. I'm assuming there probably was not, since a
Even if
fight
there were an
broke out.
iPad, you're saying it was a tablet?
No. I think it was a phone. I
Okay,
think.
even
I will
so,
hope.
even so.
Yeah, but like still, I mean, I'm assuming that probably what they did is they gave this kid like a cell phone or whatever to go and watch shows, and the volume was on, and so they could hear, everything that was being played, and that's exactly why the fight broke out. And I was like, that is insane.
Right.
Like, what makes you think that you can just go and do that? And if your kid literally is getting so bored,
Right.
then like, I don't know, and like, let them be bored.
Like, I get it on the level of, it can be hard for people to afford babysitters, and it
Yeah.
can be hard for working parents to get away and have fun. But like, at a certain point, you just got to respect the people around
Yeah.
you. Nobody wants to see your kid's phone
No.
while they're watching a movie. It's not
Well,
fair. It's just
yeah.
not fair.
No, because it's like even like, in the theater that I was in, it wasn't bad or anything. We did have some people, like there was like a kid that was crying for, during like a speech or something. And that was kind of like annoying and everything. But it's just like, for me, it's just kind of like, you're kind of like sympathize because you're like, they can't really control like a crying kid. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? If I was in that position, I'd try to like pick up the kid and like, like that entryway into the theater. So you could kind of still maybe watch the movie, but also kind of try to calm down the kid.
Yes.
Like I feel like that there's like definitely solutions
Yes.
that are considerate of like all parties involved.
I'll tell you what, there's a simple solution to this. If this continues to be a problem, we need new laws. We need laws on the books. We need a new punishment for this kind of behavior. That punishment, death to all of them.
Yeah, that'll
Death,
never happen
capital
again.
punishment for distracting people in the theaters. We need to bring it back for that offense specifically. I don't care. It is the golden rule, and I'm willing to back that. That's my solution.
That is hilarious. No, well, and then like, okay, can I just tell you something too? Because like, I'm sorry, but when you were talking about like Cardi B getting this drink thrown at her and being like, celebrities aren't your friends, like I was like, okay, even if my friend threw something at me, I would like literally go berserk. That would that would not fly with me. So I don't know what that person's motivation was, but it was not a good reason.
No,
like,
nothing.
And I've seen this happen to a lot of other performers where things are being thrown at them. And I'm like, that just upsets me. I'm like thinking how scary it must be for those performers to go out there and just like, is something going to get thrown at me?
Right.
Like, like, I mean, they're putting themselves out there really during those performances. And just for somebody, whether it's like a fan or I'm assuming it is because they're at the show. They're there.
Right.
To go and disrespect that person like that. That's just like, are you like, what is wrong with you?
I think there's a similar solution as to my movie theaters. Similar. I'm not a big pro gun advocate, but you know what? Give Cardi B an AK-47. Arm performers. Taylor Swift gets a bazooka.
Oh my
Just
God.
arm
hilarious.
our performers. I guarantee you, less drinks thrown.
I love how you're like, oh, Oppenheimer, like respect humanity. And now we're like, everyone carries guns and death to anyone that pulls out a phone at the theater. Hilarious. I love that.
Paradoxical.
Right? I know. We're shades of gray. Nothing's black and white.
That's right. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on, have you noticed like a social etiquette decline in your own experience? My second viewing of Oppenheimer, funny story, it was at the famous Chinese theater here in Hollywood, and they somehow accidentally double booked our seats. So when we got there, and it was true, like a couple was sitting there and I thought it was going to be, oh, great. This is like, they thought they could just steal our seats because we weren't there, But no, we compared tickets. I bought mine online several days before. They bought theirs physically and the system. So the people at the theater were nice enough. They gave us a private booth. And really, it was a really cool experience. My first time actually in that theater. Yeah. And so we got to see it from above a little bit. And I could see the whole audience down there. And I'm like, that person in the second row, I saw them. I was like, for most of the movie, I was still focused on the movie because I could with my eye level. But occasionally I just check out of curiosity, like during the best parts of the movie. Because again, it's my second viewing, so I can kind of do that. I'm like, that person has been scrolling on their phone. Go home. So I've seen it firsthand, even at an incredible movie, second row in the Chinese theater. Do you know how many people would kill to be in this theater? It's a famous, it's like where they premiere the movies. It's such a privileged experience.
It's historical.
It's historical. And to be able to see this magnificent film and you sat there on your stupid Snapchat, like, what is wrong with you? So for those of you watching, let us know. Have you noticed a trend too? Is there anything short of capital punishment, like I suggested, that we could do to combat this? Am I too harsh? Am I not going far enough? And then Meg, I'm curious.
Just need somebody to see be yelling at people, turn off your phones.
Right.
Because I'll be honest, really quick, is that like I know that I think that this is probably a lot of things that people do, but like when you're watching something and you have your phone next to you, it's just kind of out of habit. You check it, right?
Right.
So I think that if you're going to the movie theater, like, listen, like, probably nothing urgent is going to happen. Just turn
Right.
off your phone.
Yeah, if you can't handle it, turn it off.
Yeah,
completely.
just turn it off. Put it down in front of you in your purse, or, like, I don't know where guys would put it because you guys don't carry purses a lot, but
Some of us do.
some of you do. I was like,
I
but
don't,
then
but
for the
some
ones
do.
who don't,
Yeah.
I guess you figure out a solution.
Or
you
listen,
know.
leave it in the car if you have to.
Yeah.
Print paper. There was a time, believe it or not, when these didn't
Nobody
exist.
had phones.
And so you can survive leaving it in your car, printing a paper ticket if you need to, and doing that. If you cannot trust yourself, do the right
It's
thing.
temptation.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Well,
like
Meg,
it's
I think
incentive.
we've
Yes.
we've said it all this week.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting into a groove here at Solidarity Side Chats. I love it.
Yay.
Any final thoughts for our wonderful, wonderful viewers?
No, I always thank you for, joining me in this venture and everything. I love you. And so I'm always happy to have these conversations with you. And then also thank you to whoever's watching. We really appreciate it. And if you support us, definitely give us a follow, like this video. If you want to help Solidarity Media grow, you can go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Solidarity Media. And that's about it. Do you have any final thoughts or words you want to say?
That's just about it. But again, if you go to the movies and I see you on your phone, it's going to get ugly. So if I get arrested in the near future, if you don't see me on Solidarity Side Chats because I got arrested, it's because someone was on their damn phone and I finally lost it. But again, other than that, I have nothing else to say. Take care, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Next week.